Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Now I'm so excited to film today's video because I haven't filmed one of these in I think since last year, and it's going to be my summer camp like myth busting video. So I asked on my Instagram yesterday if you guys had any myths that you'd heard maybe about working at a summer camp or kind of just doing Camp America, that kind of thing, what you'd heard that maybe you weren't sure if was true or not, and you weren't sure if it was a bit of a myth. So today I'm here to put your mind at ease, answer these kind of questions, scenarios, and tell you whether they're true or not. Now, big disclaimer, this is obviously only relatable to my camp and my camp experience. Obviously, some of the things that I might say aren't true at my camp might be true somewhere else. So kind of just take this as you will, and it's just a little fun video to give you an idea on kind of the myths, whether they are true or not for my camp. I will go into detail if I come to some that I'm really not sure if they would apply to all camps, but some of them will obviously apply to all camps as kind of across the whole, across the main, they will kind of apply the same. But I'll let you know as I go through if there are any that I think might vary from camp to camp. So yeah, so I've just got some myths on my phone. I'm going to read through them, answer them, talk you through them, and just let you know whether I think they're true or not. So yeah, thank you for watching and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is that you get no sleep. Now, again, like, this completely will depend on the person as well. Like, I find I sleep really well at camp. It will also depend on what age group you have. If you have the youngest kids at camp that are maybe like 6-7 years old, their bedtime is going to be a lot earlier than say the 15-16 year olds. So bear that in mind as well. Like, it will really depend on what age group you have. But then again, like on the flip side, the younger ones will wake up a lot earlier and the older ones would normally have like late wake up. At my camp, they don't have to wake up as early as everyone else. So it kind of depends. But in terms of sleep, like I say, I've found that I've slept really well at camp. I think a big part is being comfortable. So when you get to camp, and your camp would normally take you on like a shopping trip to Walmart or Target, get some things that are going to make you feel comfy. Make sure you've taken some home comforts from home. Maybe it's like a blanket or a cushion or some photos, like just something to make your bunk feel a bit more homely, because I think that's a massive thing when it comes to sleeping at camp, and whether you're comfortable is a big thing. My setup at camp last year was so good. I'm so excited to have my bed set up again. Obviously it'll be a slightly different setup this time because I'm not actually in the bunk this year, but I'm so excited to go and have like, I just love having a little cabin bunk set up. I just love it. I think it's just like it's straight out the movies and it's so fun. But obviously, like at my camp, we have 4 nights off a week. So in terms of then, like sometimes we're not getting, our nights off finish at 12:30. So say by the time you've got into the bunk, you've got into your pajamas, you've got into bed, let's say it's 1 o'clock before you're falling asleep. Sometimes you're waking up at 7. So in terms of that, like you can feel quite tired and exhausted, but because you're going out all the time and sometimes you're like just non-stop, and you're non-stop during the day anyway. But you can definitely get to sleep and get some rest. It just would sometimes depend on maybe like having a night in or doing something differently. And obviously on your nights when you're on duty, like you're in the bunk, you're kind of like just going to sleep as and when the kids do. So yeah, I can't really say if that's true or not, because for me it's not true. Like saying you get no sleep is not accurate for me at all, because I sleep, like I said, really well at camp, and I think you do have to prioritize getting sleep, because you do realize that if you don't get sleep, you are going to be absolutely exhausted the next day. So it can be, it's kind of like I say, depends on the person, but I'm going to say that's not true. Okay, next one. I'd never actually spoke about this before. It's a really good one. It's that only boys or only girls take part in some activities like rope burn. Now, this is an amazing question. Like I say, something that I don't think I've really spoken about at all. Rope burn at camp for me is, it's going to be kind of different for everyone, but I think what's funny is when people say this and they've gone to different camps, and I'm like, oh wow, like it kind of applies to a lot of camps. Like a lot of camps do these kind of activities. So a little idea, rope burn is a big activity we have during Colour War, and Colour War is a big tournament, like event thing we have the last 5 days of camp for us, and it's this huge event where the whole camp is split into 2 teams, blue and white for us at Tyler Hill, and we have all these mini little activities and competitions within Colour War, and rope burn is one of these activities, and it's where the counsellors do it. Like the kids don't take part in this one, it's a counsellor ran activity, and it's where they have these huge big ropes out on the golf course. Like when I say huge, like they're so high, I don't even know how high they are. I should probably try and find that out. And there's teams of 5, so there's 5 people on white team, 5 people on blue team, and the idea is that you have to build a fire under this rope big enough so that the rope burns and then the rope breaks. Whichever team burns the rope first is the winner. So yeah, like I said, there's 5 on each, and I think up until last year it had been a boy only event, not because it had to be, but because it was just boys that were interested. And Kat, one of my really good friends at camp, who was actually my division, she I think it was the first girl, pretty sure there'd never been a girl do it before. Last year she was the first girl that did rope burn, and she absolutely killed it, like honestly. And it was the white team that won. She was on the white team, and oh my god, it was so incredible to watch, because like I said, she was the only girl out of then these 10 counsellors doing it, and it was insane. So years before that, I think it was just because girls weren't interested in doing it, but last year Kat was like, get me on the rope burn team, I'm doing it. And she carried the team, like, I'm not joking, she killed it, like, honestly killed it. So some events like that are just because you haven't got girls or boys interested in doing it, but like I say, for years it was just the boy counsellors doing it, but last year was the first year that girl did it. So yeah, it kind of will just depend if you've got interest in it. I don't really know what other events there are that are kind of just boys and girls. We have kind of like boys and girls invitationals, which is a big basketball tournament, but like I said, we have one for boys and one for girls. So in terms of that, I can't really think of any others, but that was amazing, honestly, when Kat did that. It was incredible. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's not true. Like I said, my camp anyway, like up until last year, it was that boys just did rope burn, but that was just because there was no girls interested, not that girls couldn't. So yeah. Okay, this next one is kind of just like a question, but I want to talk about this. And it's, have you ever had a haunted, creepy experience at camp? Now, Summer, I know Summer's watching this video and she will know exactly what I'm about to say. So when we were at camp during orientation, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days before camp started, before the campers actually got there. Now, I wouldn't say it was a haunted experience, it was just creepy, like the scariest thing that's probably happened at camp. It was so weird. And I was in my bunk and me and Summer were just chilling, like on my top bunk. We were just like chilling, chatting. There was no one in my bunk and I can't work out why. I've got a feeling, actually, I don't think orientation had even started yet, or had it? I really can't remember, but basically there was no one in my bunk. Like, it was just me and Summer, but she was in a different bunk, so I can't remember, like I say, why we weren't in the same one if there was no one else there. But anyway, she was in my bunk and she's about to leave. Like, I'm in bed, like I'm about to go to bed, and she's going to walk into her bunk, and I was on upper camp and she was on lower camp, so she didn't have far to walk. It was just kind of like down through a bunk, and then lower camp's like towards the bottom of camp. And all of a sudden we hear this really creepy voice over the tannoys, like over the big speaker systems, and it was just like going 5, 4, 9, like reading out these robotic numbers like over and over and over again. And she literally opened the door and we couldn't really hear it. We could hear someone talking, but we didn't know what it was whilst we were in bed. And then as she opened the door, it was so loud, and she goes to walk out, and then she comes back in, she was like, Vic, what is that? And we were both like, no, that's weird, like that is creepy. I remember she comes back in and we were like, I don't understand what it was. It was like it was like someone had hacked into the tannoy speaker system and was just like saying these things over and over again, but it was the fact it was the same set of numbers over and over. Like, it doesn't probably sound too weird, like me telling you now, but in the moment we were absolutely terrified. We were like, what do we do? Like, I don't know what to do. So Summer called someone that was in Wayne Hall, and they come running down, and I think we probably made out like it was way worse than it was. It probably wasn't that bad, but we were both really scared just because we didn't know what it was. Like, it was over the speakers. This was maybe like 11:30 at night, so no one was really up and about, like no one was around, and yeah, it was just really weird. And they had to go in and like disconnect all the speakers and stuff, and then it happened once more again in like the middle of the summer when all the kids were there, and everyone was like, what is that, like what's going on? And we still don't know what it was. I think someone said that maybe it was the Wi-Fi connection number was, I really don't know. Someone said that maybe it had like triggered something and it was reading the number out instead of, I really have no idea. It didn't make sense to me, but it was really, really creepy. And I remember someone was like, I don't want to go back to my bunk. Like, I am terrified. I want to stay here. I'm not going. But that's the only kind of like creepy experience I've had at camp. And like I say, it was completely explainable. It was just something on the speaker system, or it was like an error message that was being read out over the speakers instead of like any other way. But yeah, it was really strange. But I don't know what it was or why it happened, but I'm sure some people have some really, really creepy stories. If you do have any stories, actually, like haunted stories or creepy stories from camp, please let me know, because I'm really intrigued by what some people have maybe experienced at camp. I feel like that'd be fascinating to find out. But yeah. Okay, the next myth I'm going to talk about is that you don't get time for yourself. Now, again, this will completely depend. I love going to camp because I don't want to spend time by myself. I love going and spending time with so many people and not having that time to myself. If you want time by yourself, you definitely can have it, but you're there to experience being with all these people from all over the world and have this incredible experience for just such a short space of time that you kind of don't want to. And sometimes it can be exhausting, and like if you've gone out every night on your night off, or you've just been, obviously you're around so many people during the days at camp, sometimes you do just need a night into yourself. But I remember the first time I had some time by myself, it was when I wasn't feeling very well, and it was just before Colour War, I think it was, or just after, and I was feeling really run down, and my division leader was like, just go and take an hour, like go and line the bunk, see how you feel. And it was the first time I'd sat and been in silence, and it was so weird. I didn't actually like it. And you'll find the same when you go home and you're first by yourself, like in your room, and you're like, I don't like this, like I want to be back in a bunk with like all my kids and like my counsellors and like different things, like you do miss it. So for me personally, I don't like having time to myself at camp. It's probably definitely needed, like just even having an hour by yourself, but you don't want to. So you can definitely make the time if you want to have a night in, like maybe not go out for drinks or go out for food, like just to have a night into yourself, and you can definitely do that. But I feel like you're going to spend time with all these people, so I personally would advise like try and make the most of it and spend as much time with all these people as you can, because you're going to blink and the summer's going to fly by and you're going to be at home sat all by yourself in your bed and you're going to wish that you were back at camp. So kind of true, kind of false, depends what you're after for the summer really. Okay, next one is everyone gets a camp boyfriend or girlfriend, and this is so funny because someone also messaged me or commented on my YouTube video that was like, oh, like I keep hearing that camps are like Love Island, like is this true? And I've always kind of said when people ask, like it can be associated like being a bit of a reality TV show. I've always said if you could turn camp into a reality TV show, it would be the funniest thing ever. Like honestly, it would be hilarious, because gotta think, like at my camp we have nearly 300 staff, so you're putting 300 staff members into one specific place for 2 months where you eat together, you work together, you go out together, like you do all these things. So in terms of that, it is very similar to a TV show like Love Island, because relationships are going to form and people are going to fancy each other, and it just kind of happens. But definitely not that everyone gets a camp boyfriend or girlfriend. Like it definitely happens. Like you could meet the love of your life at camp, like you don't know. So it really depends. Like if you're going because you like, kind of like want to have a camp boyfriend or girlfriend, that's absolutely fine and it could potentially happen. But also if you don't want that, like you can completely stay out of it. You don't have to get involved obviously in anything like that. But like I say, relationships naturally do form, and you're in this close proximity for such a long period of time that people do want to get to know each other, and it does happen. So yeah. Okay, next one is that some people go to camp and hate it. Now again, this can be completely true. Like I know people that have gone to camp and really haven't enjoyed it and have just had a completely different experience to others. Now I can obviously only go off my personal experience, and I've always gone to camp and absolutely loved it and can't imagine spending my summers any other way. I have heard horror stories from camps where they just haven't been treated great, or they haven't got time off, or they've signed on to do a job and it's been a completely different job role. Like I've heard some horrendous stories about people going to camp, and I feel so sorry for the people that have had those experiences, because I want them to have such an amazing experience like I've had and experience it the way that it should be experienced. And it is going to completely depend on you as a person, the camp you go to, the summer you're hoping to have. There's so many factors that go into whether you're going to go to camp and end up enjoying it or not. But in the run up to camp, I've been stressing to so many people, like make sure the camp you are going to is the camp you really want to work at and you have a big love for before you actually go. I think I was talking to Hayley, one of the assistant directors at Tyler Hill, and we were both saying that what I think is amazing from like this year, I think has been a big turning point, is that you guys are interviewing camps as well. Like it's not just about a camp interviewing you, like this is where you're going to spend your summer and where you're going to potentially have this as your summer home. You need to interview them as well. So when you're going through these processes to find which camp you're going to go to, make sure it's the right one and make sure they have kind of like the same values that you follow, or they just do things that you agree with. And that's a big factor as well. Like don't go to a camp for the sake of it because it looks really nice or they offer a really cool program. Like if that's not really what you think, if that's not the place you think is going to be a good camp to spend your time at, then it's not going to be the one for you. And that doesn't go to say that you could go to a camp that you think is going to be an absolute dream and your favorite place and they have all the same like ideas and values as you, and then you could go and not have a good time. Like that can still happen, but to minimize that, I would literally just say make sure that you're going somewhere that you've maybe like spoke to staff that have been to before, like you've spoke to a lot of the head staff, you've kind of got a gauge for camp before you go or before you even sign your contract, and just try and minimize that you're going somewhere that maybe you don't know too much about. But yeah, I know people that do go and really just don't enjoy it. It really depends on, like I said, the person, the camp, like what you're doing at camp. Like it really depends. I can only go off like me having the most incredible experiences at camp, and I just hope the same for all of you guys, that you can go and have the most incredible time and experience this as such an amazing thing and get so much out of it. But yeah, it can be true, like, do you know what I mean? Like people can go and not enjoy it. Just depends. Okay, next one is that you have limited contact with home. Now I've spoke about this quite a lot before. This will kind of depend on what your phone policy is at camp. Now for me last year, our phone policy was kind of like you can have your phones in the bunk but don't be seen on them when you're working. Obviously just use them for your time off, like use them if you're in the bunk when the kids are asleep, or if you want to get up early in the morning, go to the gym or phone home, whatever. Camps make it easy for you to stay in contact with home. They don't want you to not have any contact. Again, this is still just me relating to my camp and a lot of other camps I've heard of as well. I know for a fact like Tyler Hill would not want all these international staff and people to come over to camp and then not be able to speak to home. Like it's a big thing going and moving to America for the summer and being there, and if you weren't able to contact home, like a lot of people would leave. You'd be unhappy not being able to communicate with home, and if you're feeling homesick, the one thing you want to do is just call home, and they want you to be able to do that. They want you to feel good in where you are and as happy and secure as you can be, so that you don't want to end up going home. You want to end up staying and having an amazing summer and then just going home at the end. So yeah, like I say, at my camp, it's very easy for us to stay in touch with home. I would get up early in the morning, or maybe go down to the gym, or just go and sit by the lake and call home. Or when I had a period off or an evening off, I would always just check in with home. Like, you do find you get caught up and you don't actually get to contact home as much, but that's more just because that's what ends up happening, not because I don't want to talk to home. Just you're so caught up in how busy camp life is that sometimes you just don't get a chance to. But yeah, you can definitely stay in touch with home. Again, try and find out what your camp policy is on phones and stuff, and how that works, whether there's a staff room with Wi-Fi, because I know a lot of people maybe get to camp and there's no signal and stuff. So yeah, trying to just find those things out before you go, but you definitely can stay in touch with home, 100%. Okay, this next one actually really shocked me, that some people think that this happens at camps, and it was that directors prioritise hiring Americans and locals over international members. And again, I can only go off my camp, and at Tyler Hill I could not even imagine anything more false. I think most of our staff this year make up of internationals. Like, a big chunk of our staff is internationals. It's not kind of like it's 80% Americans and only 20% internationals. So many members of staff this year that are going are from all over the world and not just from America. Obviously we have a lot of Americans that do go to camp because that's just how it goes, but there's definitely nowhere near kind of like leaning more towards Americans or internationals. I want to check actually what the number is so I can confirm, but I'm pretty sure there's more internationals than Americans going, which I think is amazing. And even the Americans and like camp itself are so grateful for internationals. Like, I remember in 2021 when camp opened but no internationals could go because of COVID, they said it was such a hard summer, and you forget how important that balance is of like Americans and international staff. So that's a big thing. They were so grateful for everyone that was international to return to camp last year, and it just really connects like, it makes you a real cohesive unit. And if you've got people from all over the world, it balances out way better. So I have never heard of that, but like I say, there will be camps out there that maybe do prioritise American staff over others. I really don't know, but it's very false for my camp. Okay, next one is that everyone is awkward and no one will be your friend. I have not heard a more false statement in my entire life, to be honest. I think a big thing going to camp is that all the people going do kind of have very similar personalities and characteristics, and being awkward is not normally one of them. Like, you might be a little bit shy or a bit of an introvert, which I was my first summer. So shy. It was actually crazy to look back now and see how different I am as a person. But people are going because you're quite outgoing, you want to do something different. Like, most people don't go and do something like this. Like, if you think back to the people that maybe you went to school with or people you know around you, count how many of them have actually been to summer camp or are going to one. Like, in your small circle from back home, I know nobody that I went to school with. Actually, one girl in like a couple of years below me I know went to work at a summer camp last year, and that's it. Like, I don't know anyone else that has been in that circle of like people I knew back home. So a big thing is that not many people go and do this. The people that are doing this are the ones that are kind of like wanting to travel and see the world and have these experiences and do different things. And it's such an amazing thing that those people aren't usually awkward. Like, don't get me wrong, it can be quite a nerve-wracking thing to do, go to camp and all of that, but in terms of like no one wanting to be your friend, I've never heard something more false. Like I say, all these people are going because they want to meet new people and they want to have this experience, and you guys are just, you're excited to go and experience this and meet people and have best friends from all over the world. So that is a big false, and that's not even just going from like my camp. Like, I can say that about most camps in America, that everyone going and doing this, no matter what camp you're working at, is going with that similar mindset, and you're going to meet your friends for life. Like, literally your people. Like, my best friends and the people I talk to every single day are those that I've met at camp, whether it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or last summer. Like, it doesn't matter. The most important people I've met in my life I have met at camp. So yeah, that's definitely not true at all. Okay, and the last one I'm going to talk about is that you get no support if you're struggling to bond with the kids. Now, again, this is going to be very relevant to my camp, and I'm not sure how other camps would deal with these kind of things, but at my camp you have so much support, and everyone knows that it can be really difficult, especially your first summer, going into a bunk with kids that you've never met before and having to bond with them straight away and having this relationship and then spending every single waking minute with them. It is hard, but division leaders and head staff know that. They know how difficult it can be, and they want to support you through that because, again, like I said earlier, they want you to have the best time so that you stay working at camp and you stay having this experience and you want to see your job out for the summer. They don't want to make it a miserable experience and be like, oh well, you're struggling, you're gonna have no support whatsoever, like just get on with it. That has never happened at my camp. I can say I've never heard of anyone feel like that at all. Like, people struggle. Like, I know people that I was really close to last summer really struggled to form connections with their kids, and they would just go and speak to someone and say, look, like, what can I do? Do you have any ideas? And a lot of the times, a big thing that I recommend to people is don't force it. Like, if you're a week or so in and you're feeling like you haven't connected with the kids, just don't force it. Just kind of go with the flow and just see what happens. Like, don't push it, because I feel like when you push it, it actually kind of makes it worse. Just be there for the kids. If they've got a question, answer it. If they've got something they want to talk to you about, but don't, like I say, don't push it, because it can be, you don't need to force any kind of relationship at camp, because the kids will warm up to you. It's a big thing, especially for the older kids, like to have new people come in and then have to form those relationships with those people. I know for the younger kids it's a lot easier because they haven't really experienced much of camp yet, that they kind of just, especially they're so young, they're so homesick, they just want that figure, kind of like that parental figure straight away when they get to camp. But yeah, even from most camps, I know for a fact they're going to have a good support system, and they're going to want to help you through those times. If you're struggling with like forming bonds or relationships, they're going to want to help, because they want you to have a good time and they want the kids to have a good time, and that works hand in hand with how you're able to form relationships. Now, at my camp, we do actually have someone on the head staff team that is a like qualified psychologist, and she kind of, her job role last year, which I thought was amazing, she kind of set up, like, she would send emails out and you could book in for like a little session or like a little meeting, and I could drop in with her and just talk about anything that was worrying you, and you'd go to her office and just say, look, like, I'm struggling with this, or this isn't going too well, do you have any tips? And she would literally be there in the office, and you could go and talk to her literally any time of the day. And I thought that was an amazing thing that we offered last year, and it was so helpful. I know so many people, I know quite a few people that did actually use this and go and speak to her. And I think having that point of contact is so nice, but knowing that there's so many other people you can talk to as well, like even the other counsellors in your bunk, or just like your group leaders, your division leaders, friendship coaches, like anyone around you you can talk to, and they're going to want to help you, especially like returners. Like I say, I want people to get the most out of their summer, and I'm so excited to help people through their time at camp, and I want you guys to have the best time, and I want you to experience, like I say, camp the way that I have, and have such an amazing time. So you definitely do have those support systems there. Just talk to someone, communicate if you're struggling, and work through it that way. Okay, so that's all I'm going to speak about in this video. That's been so fun. I love talking about myths because I find it really fascinating to talk through what you guys have heard about camp, and you're like wanting to know whether they're true or not. But yeah, if you have any more, please leave them down below, or drop me a message on Instagram, and maybe I can make a part 2 of this myth busting video, because like I said, they're really fun to film. But yeah, I'm about to head down to the beach for the day. It's the most beautiful day here in Sydney. I just love it. I don't know how, like, it's so funny because I get like, I don't know how I'm going to leave this place, but then I know I'm leaving to go to camp, and that makes me so excited, and then I know I can come back to Australia. So yeah, I'm gonna go spend the day at the beach. Sorry, that was just real random. Little side note for you there. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.